Halo semuanya, selamat datang di Swamedi Informatika di virtual workshop mengenai API Strategy to Deliver Responsive Digital Experiences. Selamat datang sekali lagi, selamat sore juga teman-teman semuanya. Ada teman-teman developer, engineer, researcher juga ada. Selamat datang. Perkenalkan, aku Mauli dan di sini juga ada dua teman aku, ada Kang Sahrul, Alam Sukma. Halo Kang Sahrul.
Halo Mbak Molly.
Okay, and also we have Punit. Hai Punit.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Sepanjang 1 jam ke depan, kita akan punya 3 sesi selama webinar ini. Yang pertama ada sesi dari Kang Sahrul. Kang Sahrul nanti akan menjelaskan tentang API secara umum, terus juga ada tentang API strategy, dan juga implementasinya secara umum juga. Nanti di sesi kedua akan ada Punit. Punit akan menjelaskan tentang implementasi API strategy dengan API platform. API platformnya apa? Nanti akan dijelaskan sama Punit lebih detailnya. Terus di akhir kita juga punya ada sesi tanya jawab. Jadi teman-teman kalau sepanjang presentasi nanti ada punya pertanyaan, pertanyaannya bisa di-submit di kolom Q&A di Zoom bagian bawahnya. Oke, alright. Without further ado, Kang Sahrul, are you ready to start?
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang saya ucapkan untuk teman-teman semua dan terima kasih banyak atas kehadirannya di event webinar kali ini. Hari ini kita akan bahas tentang API strategi ya. Jadi API strategi merupakan API yang plan yang akan nanti kita jelaskan hari ini, bagaimana cara membangun API strategi untuk mengatur agar API yang kita punya itu bisa lebih efisien dan lebih powerful lagi. Oke. Sebelumnya perkenalkan, saya Sahrul Alam Sukma, saya middleware engineer di PT Swamedi Informatika. Saat ini saya sedang dedicated support di salah satu bank swasta di Indonesia untuk handle produknya API Manager dan Identity Server. Baik, teman-teman, sebelum kita bahas tentang API strategi ya, kita akan bahas dulu secara singkat tentang API kondisi saat ini seperti apa, gitu ya. Jadi, seperti yang teman-teman tahu, bahwa saat ini API mempunyai peran yang sangat penting ya, untuk kebutuhan transformasi digital, untuk pembangunan digital ekosistem, untuk migrasi mungkin dari tradisional bisnis ke digital bisnis, gitu ya. Nah, API merupakan part yang sangat penting untuk memenuhi kebutuhan itu. Nah, kemudian API juga mempunyai fungsi untuk menyambungkan antar sistem sebagai perantara ya untuk bisa berkomunikasi, melakukan pertukaran data, kemudian pengaksesan resource yang terstandar dan terstruktur. Itu. Nah, selanjutnya ada API ekosistem ya. Di sini teman-teman semua juga mungkin sudah nggak asing dengan API ekosistem yang dibedakan ke dalam beberapa part ya. Ke dalam beberapa bagian ada arsitektur, kemudian komponen, kemudian types dan protokol. Nah, untuk arsitektur sendiri saat ini API mempunyai dua arsitektur utama ya, microservice dan monolitik. Di mana saat ini microservice ya merupakan arsitektur yang paling umum digunakan ya sekarang ya karena kemampuan skalabilitas, kemudian fleksibilitas ya, kemampuan reusable yang baik dibandingkan dengan monolitik. Kemudian selanjutnya ada API komponen. Nah, API komponen ini terdiri dari technical specs dan software interface ya. Di mana technical specs juga biasanya terdiri dari API design, kemudian deskripsi respons sukses, respons error, kemudian deskripsi metode ya, get, post, put, delete dan lain-lain. Nah, kemudian selanjutnya ada API types. Nah, API types ini juga teman-teman semua sudah nggak asing ya dengan API types yang dibedakan ke dalam hak akses gitu ya. Jadi saat ini ada API public, kemudian private, partner, dan composite, di mana masing-masing punya keterbatasan berdasarkan hak aksesnya. Selanjutnya adalah API protokol. Nah, API protokol ini yang saat ini umum digunakan ya, terutama REST API. REST API sekarang mungkin banyak sekali yang pakai. Kemudian ada GraphQL, RPC, dan SOAP API. Ya. Selain itu juga di API protokol ini, mungkin untuk tren yang sekarang, ada WebSocket API, ya. Kemudian ada eh, Webhook API, kemudian ada Asynchronous API, dan lain-lain. Selanjutnya adalah manfaat API. Nah, ini juga teman-teman developer sudah merasakan ya kemudahan dengan adanya API. Jadi yang jelas yang pertama adalah proses development yang lebih cepat dibandingkan dengan kita tidak menggunakan API. Jadi proses development yang lebih cepat karena bisa di-reuse, ya, karena kita bisa menggunakan function-function yang sudah ada. Kemudian yang selanjutnya adalah kemudahan integrasi, di mana memang salah satu fungsi utama API adalah menghubungkan antar sistem untuk bisa berkomunikasi, ya, untuk bisa bertukar data. Dan selanjutnya adalah perluasan jangkauan dan kemitraan. Nah, ini relate-nya dengan kita ketika kita mempunyai sebuah open API atau public API, di mana public API itu bisa diakses oleh siapapun, ya, tanpa batasan, maka secara jangkauan ini tentunya akan lebih luas karena bisa digunakan oleh siapapun. Gitu. Selanjutnya adalah peningkatan UI UX. Nah, API memang secara tidak langsung membantu UI UX, tapi API mempunyai peran ya untuk UI UX, ya. Kayak untuk menyediakan data, kemudian untuk membantu function lain yang dibutuhkan oleh UI UX gitu ya. Selanjutnya terakhir adalah inovasi dan monetisasi. Nah, ini juga dengan API kita bisa berkreasi, developer bisa bebas berkreasi sekreatif mungkin untuk menghasilkan API, untuk membangun API sesuai dengan kebutuhannya masing-masing. Dan yang selanjutnya adalah monetisasi. Nah, ini dengan API kita mempunyai peluang bisnis ya, karena API yang kita punya ini bisa kita sewa umum, developer lain akan seperti itu. Nah, oke, selanjutnya kita langsung aja akan bahas tentang API strategi ya. Jadi teman-teman di sini mungkin ada yang sudah pernah dengar, ada yang sekarang lagi proses implementasi mungkin ya, atau ada yang mungkin sudah implementasi tentang API strategi. Jadi kita bahas secara singkat dari pengertiannya dulu. Jadi apa sih API strategi? Jadi API strategi ini adalah plan penggunaan API untuk mencapai tujuan bisnis. Jadi teman-teman saat ini punya API, ini mau kita apain API-nya gitu ya. Kalau misalkan tidak dibuatkan strateginya, tidak dibuatkan plan-nya, maka kemungkinan API tersebut akan berjalan kurang optimal gitu, kurang powerful. Nah, dengan adanya API strategi ini juga bisa menjadi panduan dalam memanfaatkan API nanti untuk mendukung inisiatif digital perusahaan. Itu ya. Jadi yang paling penting di sini di API strategi ini adalah harus mempunyai tujuan bisnis dulu nih secara umum gitu ya. Bisa meningkatkan pendapatan, kemudian memperbaiki sistem existing yang saat ini mungkin ada kekurangan. Kemudian bisa contohnya untuk membuat sebuah produk digital baru ataupun untuk migrasi dari tradisional bisnis ke digital bisnis seperti itu. Nah, kemudian ada beberapa poin penting ya di API strategi. Ada 5 poin penting yang dituliskan di sini. Yang pertama adalah tujuan bisnis. Seperti yang saya sebutkan di awal bahwa dengan API strategi, kita perlu menentukan tujuan bisnisnya dulu nih, mau apa gitu ya. Jangan sampai kita menetapkan strategi API, tapi kita tidak punya tujuannya apa. Jadi kita harus punya tujuannya dulu secara umum, yang sesuai dengan nanti target perusahaan secara umum gitu ya. Kemudian selanjutnya adalah target audience. Nah, target audience ini maksudnya adalah untuk siapa nanti API-nya. API yang kita punya itu akan digunakan oleh siapa gitu ya. Apakah digunakan oleh developer internal, ataukah digunakan oleh developer eksternal, ataukah digunakan untuk umum gitu ya, target audiensnya. Kemudian yang selanjutnya ada di sisi level teknis, ada desain dan arsitektur API. Nah, ini juga kita setelah menentukan tujuannya apa, mendeskripsikan target audiensnya siapa, selanjutnya kita perlu mendesain dulu nih API dan arsitekturnya ya untuk bisa berjalan secara optimal. Selanjutnya ada governance dan security, ini juga jadi poin penting di mana governance berkaitan dengan ketersediaan API atau API availability, kemudian policy dan lain-lain, kemudian security yang digunakan untuk melindungi API kita itu akan seperti apa. Gitu. Yang selanjutnya adalah monetisasi. Nah, ini di API strategi sendiri monetisasi bentuknya opsional ya, opsional. Jadi bisa digunakan bisa tidak. Yang artinya di mana ya tadi ya monetisasi sudah saya mention di awal bahwa monetisasi merupakan eh, peluang bisnis yang bisa didapatkan dari penyediaan API untuk disewakan ke developer lain. Itu ya. Nah, selanjutnya langsung aja bagaimana sih kita melakukan implementasi API strategi. Gitu ya. Jadi yang pertama, setelah saya merangkum dari beberapa sumber bahwa untuk mengimplementasi API strategi itu dipisahkan atau dibagi ke dalam 3 fase. Ya, ke dalam 3 fase. Fase yang pertama adalah perancangan dan desain. Fase yang kedua, development and testing. Fase yang ketiga adalah implementasi dan maintenance. Oke, kita lanjut langsung aja ke fase yang pertama. Nah, fase yang pertama adalah perancangan dan desain. Ini punya 5 poin, ya, punya 5 poin. Yang pertama adalah menentukan tujuan dan mendefinisikan target audiens. Nah, ini sudah dibahas ya tadi berkali-kali. Ada di poin penting juga, ada di slide sebelumnya bahwa menentukan tujuan dan definisi target audiens merupakan hal yang penting di API strategi. Selanjutnya, di poin yang ketiga adalah merancang arsitektur API. Nah, merancang API arsitektur di sini kita perlu memilih arsitektur apa yang akan kita gunakan ya. Apakah kita akan menggunakan REST API ataupun SOAP API gitu ya yang sesuai dengan infrastruktur, sesuai dengan kebutuhan bisnis kita API-nya. Yang selanjutnya adalah mempersiapkan infrastruktur dan tools. Nah, kita perlu siapkan infranya apa dan toolsnya apa. Infranya ya biasanya terdiri dari server ya. Server teman-teman semua speknya seperti apa, kemudian akan disimpan di mana, di apa namanya, di on premise kah atau di cloud gitu kan. Kemudian untuk tools menggunakan database apa, menggunakan framework apa, bahasa pemrogramannya apa, gitu ya, menggunakan API platform apa dan lain-lain. Nah, kita perlu mempersiapkan infrastruktur dan tools ini di bagian fase pertama di perancangan dan desain. Yang selanjutnya terakhir di fase pertama adalah menetapkan standar dan best practice. Nah, di mana menetapkan standar ini itu kayak misalkan naming API-nya seperti apa, ya, penamaan API-nya seperti apa, terus versioning control-nya nanti akan seperti apa, apakah akan mendukung CI/CD atau tidak. Nah, ini juga akan berlanjut nanti ke best practice-nya. Seperti itu. Nah, mungkin best practice ya disesuaikan lagi dengan policy perusahaan, dengan tren yang saat ini ada. Itu untuk di perancangan dan desain. Oke, selanjutnya adalah development dan testing. Nah, ini teman-teman setelah kita mengerjakan fase pertama ya, untuk implementasi API strategi, yang selanjutnya adalah fase yang kedua, yaitu development dan testing. Yang pertama adalah membangun API. Nah, saat ini kita sudah mulai praktek ya. Kita sudah mulai mengerjakan API-nya. API ini kita mengimplementasikan fungsionalitas, kita menerjemahkan bisnis proses ya dari mungkin diagram atau mungkin hanya flow di kertas gitu ya, itu dimigrasi ke digital. Nah, itu prosesnya adalah di proses menetapkan API security. Nah, setelah kita membangun API, kita perlu menetapkan API security. API security apa sih yang akan kita pakai gitu ya. Saat ini ada beberapa mekanisme atau metode untuk mengimplementasi API security untuk dari sisi autentikasinya sendiri. Cuma mungkin untuk basic authentication sudah jarang ya sekarang digunakan karena memang metode autentikasinya hanya berupa username dan password. Kemudian yang selanjutnya ada API key ya, API key ini beberapa perusahaan masih ada yang pakai API key, dan yang terakhir ini setahu saya cukup umum digunakan ya. cukup umum digunakan. Oke, kita bisa lanjut mungkin sebentar ya. Ya, jadi tadi dokumentasi merupakan poin yang sangat penting ya untuk bisa dibaca oleh developer lain. Selain itu juga dokumentasi ini penting kalau misalkan teman-teman ada pergantian developer gitu ya. Jadi penulisan dokumentasi itu menjadi penting. Nah, selanjutnya setelah menuliskan dokumentasi, maka kita siap untuk melakukan testing secara menyeluruh. Ya, testingnya bisa dimulai dari unit testing, ya, dari testing yang paling kecil, kemudian ada integration test, ya. Selanjutnya bisa naik ke tahap end-to-end testing, gitu ya, dari sisi klien ke server itu bisa di testing secara menyeluruh. Nah, itu untuk di fasenya development dan testing. Nah, selanjutnya untuk yang terakhir adalah fasenya implementasi dan maintenance, dan di mana ketika kita sudah membuat API, maka di fase yang ketiga ini adalah API-nya sudah bisa diakses oleh pengguna, oleh customer, oleh nasabah. Artinya API yang kita buat ini sudah ada di environment production, gitu. Sudah naik ke production. Kemudian yang kedua adalah memantau kinerja dan penggunaan API. Setelah kita naikin ke production, tentunya setelah itu kita perlu monitoring ya. Maintenance dan update. Ya, maintenance update ini juga menjadi poin yang ada di implementasi dan maintenance, di mana maintenance sendiri maksudnya adalah untuk memperbaiki bugs, ya, kemudian pengecekan server yang lain, dan untuk update sendiri mungkin di API-nya akan ada fitur baru, gitu ya, ataupun mungkin update tools-nya, update patching dan segala macam. Nah itu akan dilakukan di fasenya implementasi dan maintenance. Yang terakhir adalah memberikan support kepada pengguna API, di mana ketika kita memberikan atau API kita digunakan lain, maka kita wajib memberikan support ke teman-teman developer lain ya. Barangkali ada masalah atau pertanyaan dengan API yang berhubungan dengan hal-hal tersebut, maka kita wajib memberikan support. Oke, mungkin itu ya fase implementasi API strategi. Jadi ada 3. Yang pertama adalah perancangan desain, development and testing, dan yang terakhir adalah implementasi dan maintenance. Oke, yang selanjutnya adalah poin tambahan nih. Poin tambahan untuk teman-teman semua di sini bahwa untuk bisa lebih powerful lagi API-nya, kita perlu memanfaatkan API platform. Yang pertama, kita perlu memanfaatkan API platform. Yang kedua adalah tetap up to date dengan tren dan teknologi terbaru. Nah, untuk API platform sendiri memang di luaran sana banyak karena fungsinya ini bisa mengcover 3 fase tadi, ya. 3 fase ini bisa kita cover dengan menggunakan API platform, ya, untuk mempercepat development API, kemudian untuk managing API yang di dalamnya ada life cycle API dan lain-lain, ya. Nah, di sini saya kasih contoh untuk portalnya produknya WSO2, ya. Ini merupakan developer experience dengan API platform. Nah, di mana gambar sebelah kiri ini merupakan gambarnya portal publisher, ya, di mana digunakan oleh kreator atau pembuat API, developer yang buat API. Di sini ya, di sini kita bisa melakukan atau mendesain API, kemudian kita bisa membuat API, kita bisa menambahkan dokumentasi, ya, kemudian bisa menetapkan security-nya apa, ya, dan lain-lain. Masih banyak lagi fungsinya. Nah, dengan GUI semacam ini atau graphical user interface ini, maka pekerjaan managing API akan lebih rapi, akan lebih bagus, ya, akan lebih powerful lagi. Ini untuk sebelah kanan, sebelah kiri. Untuk sebelah kanan adalah API yang sudah dipublish oleh developer kreator, oleh developer pembuat API yang nantinya akan digunakan oleh developer lain, ya, namanya developer portal. Nah, jadi ini contohnya adalah SEO API. Ini merupakan API yang nanti akan digunakan oleh developer lain, ya. Di dalam dev portal ini ada dokumentasi, kemudian kita bisa lakukan testing, kita bisa lakukan generate client ID, client secret, subscription, monetisasi, dan lain-lain, ya. Sekarang cukup lengkap. di WS1 ini. Jadi teman-teman untuk mengimplementasi strategi itu jangan lupa untuk menambahkan API Flatpak karena ini akan bisa mempercepat time to market, delivery-nya akan lebih cepat dan akan lebih powerful lagi. Baik, teman-teman mungkin cukup sekian dari saya ya. Mohon maaf jika ada salah-salah. Selanjutnya akan dilanjutkan oleh Punet dari tim WSO2 Sri Lanka untuk bagaimana WSO2 dapat mendukung implementasi API strategi. Untuk teman-teman yang mungkin ada pertanyaan, silahkan bisa dituliskan di kolom komentar. Nanti kita akan bahas di akhir sesi. Baik, terima kasih dari saya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Sarul. That was a wonderful overview of the API strategy. Now that you have an API strategy, let's see how we can implement it using the platform components. Okay, great. So thank you, Sarul, and hi everyone. I'm very excited to talk to you guys today. My name is Puneet Makwara. I'm one of the solution architects on team. I'm based out of Sydney, Australia, and I work with customers in Indonesia. I've had the pleasure of working with some of the top banks in the region, some of the public utility companies, and several others. Right? It's my pleasure to walk you through the implementation of the strategy. So starting from the point where Sarul left, right? So he spoke about what are the best practices that you would need to think about an API. So let's take it ahead from there, right? You've thought of what the API should be and how you go about implementing it, right? So a quick word about WSO2. So WSO2 is an open source middleware provider. Our goal, so rather than stating our goal, probably let me start with some things that are popular in Indonesia, right? So websites like Lazada, Shopee, they've all spoiled our experiences, right? I wouldn't say spoiled, but we've got used to browsing the things we want. They have created this wow experience, right? And that is what now the consumers expect from every one of the industry, right? Like, so if you are a utility provider, you're a transportation company, or you're a bank, customers expect the same kind of digital experience when they talk about mobile applications, right? So our mission at WSO2 is to allow you, our customers, to deliver these awesome experiences, right? So we want to provide you with components that you can take and create this wow experiences, right? So you don't have to spend time building this platform. We have this platform for you. You can simply adopt this platform and start delivering these experiences. So how would you go about implementing these APIs, right? So Sarul gave a very good example. He spoke about what are the considerations that we need to have, right? So think of it as we've got all of that, right? How would you take it ahead, right? If you are trying to build some integration, you're trying to build some applications, there is a popular paradigm called API-led. Okay, API-led is just a way of developing these integration services, keeping API as a center of the solution, right? So what this paradigm, now this is a very successful paradigm. A lot of my customers have got benefits from it. So again, it's not a new way of developing application. It's just a new way to see the applications, right? So some of the constraints that we have with this paradigm is that always think about as API first, right? What does that mean is API becomes a primary point of interaction between applications, systems, and channels, right? Think of it that way. You have a team that's creating a online web portal. You've got multiple teams involved. API should be the primary communication engine, right? You've got a front-end app, you've got the back-end services. Let API be that center of communication, right? So how would you go about building that, right? Of course, you've got multiple teams working in parallel. You want to launch these services as soon as possible. So you start by defining the contract, right? The contract tells us what the API looks like, what's the name of the API, what functions can you perform, what's the input, what's the output, right? In today's world, this API contract is known as Open API specifications, right? The advantage of having this Open API specification is that your teams can start working on it parallel, right? You create this Open API document, share it with your front-end team, they can start building the UI of the application. You share it with your back-end team, they can start figuring out the logic required to process an online order, right? And another critical component, developer experience is what Saharul recommended. You need something like a developer portal where you can share this in a same manner, right? So you need to have a single version of the document shared with all the parties, right? Now, having APIs allows you to draw a clear separation between the business requirements and technical requirements, right? So, and all of this can encompass, or what we call as a facade model, right? You can have your business logic encapsulated in an integration or a microservice. Then you can have your business flow in a front-end application that can communicate with each other. Now that you've got your APIs defined, it's very easy to compare and define those business and operational KPIs, right? You can define how fast the order can be processed, how many times a day the order should be processed. All of this is available if you design your APIs well, right? Now that we know the philosophy of this paradigm, let's quickly have a look at the reference architecture, right? So organizations have spent decades innovating their backend, right? You talk about your backend systems, you have ERP, you've got CRM, you've got inventory management system. All of these are available now. They serve as a system of truth, right? And sometimes these applications provide you with APIs, right? And I'm going to call them as system APIs, right? So these are the decentralized microservices that I would say. Now, some of these APIs, so no matter what you use Dynamics as a CRM, you use Salesforce as a CRM, they all come with its own set of APIs. Okay, so from continuing from our use case, right? You've got a website where you want to accept orders. Okay, now backends are function specific, right? So you've got CRM to store customer and order data. You've got your inventory management system that takes a stock of what products are available in what warehouse. And then you have order processing system like an ERP where you want to maintain the current stock levels and stuff, right? They are very domain specific, right? Now your business might have business processes, right? And then you have a next layer of API, which we call as a process APIs. Okay, so these are modeled in terms of what your process is. For example, the business process is to process a customer order, right? Now, when you process a customer order, you are doing multiple things. You're doing transactions across multiple systems, right? So first you want to see, hey, is user an existing customer, right? What is his address? What is his payment mechanism? Do I have the product in the inventory which the customer is placing the order for? If it is, go place the order in the ERP, right? So this is where you tie data across multiple systems. You create what we call as process APIs. Now, taking this to the next level, right? Now that you've created these process APIs, which meets the business requirement, you want to enable your developers to access it from a channel, right? And then, of course, I don't believe in replicating your process, one for mobile, one for desktop, one for social media. You can have a single process API, and then you can create these experience APIs. And to give you an idea of what an experience API is, now, of course, if you're filling up an order on a desktop, you can accept 30, 40, 50 fields of the order, right? And of course, if you're doing the same order on a mobile phone, you don't want to ask 30, 40 fields. You want to try and use the minimum number of fields. And for example, that minimum number in my case is 5 fields, right? So of course, you've got the same process API, you define experience APIs, and the mobile experience API will have 5 fields, 5 attributes, all of that are mandatory. Whereas your desktop application can accept 30 fields with 15 mandatory, right? And of course, likewise. Now, another critical part of the reference architecture is the API developer portal, right? That's your, Google, Apple, they all have made the concept of stores, API stores, app stores popular, right? What you want to enable your organization to do is to have a similar store, and let's call it an API store, right? And that's what the developer portal is, right? Developer portal showcases what APIs do you have, okay? And if someone wanted to consume those APIs, how can someone request those APIs? How can someone track the usage of those APIs, right? So that's your API store. This API store can be internal to your organization. It can be external to your organization as well, right? If I'm a new developer joining your team, delivering your digital transformation projects, I don't need to go around asking people where these APIs are, right? API store, developer portal becomes a one store, one page where I can see all of the APIs that are available for me to automate. Okay, moving on. All of this sounds good, right? But what is in it? What is advantage, right? And if you can see, the key point on the top of the list is allowing you to expose your capabilities outside your organizations, right? So gone are those days when an order can only be processed by employees that are inside the organization also, right? Today, you talk about any big company, big enterprise that's trying to use or automate things, for example, banks, right? Banks today did not only depend on the employees that can operate the bank systems, but they've got partners, right? They sell insurance policies. They want to allow external third parties to sell their loans, right? And that is where the collaboration part of things comes in, right? You can have this API, design it once, use it across multiple channels. Point number two, allow external developers, right? So the innovation that you can do is not only limited to your team. And let's say if you want to go beyond your team, you want to hire some contract developers, third parties to develop digital experiences for your company. API Manager, WSO2 provides you a solution to do that in a safe and a secure manner. Another trend that you can see where this model is becoming popular is banking, right? So if you see government across the globes have started standardizing these APIs, right? And if I'm not wrong, and I keep forgetting the name and I apologize in advance for that, right? BRIC API, BRI API. So BRI API is another standard which the Indonesian government has rolled out for all the banks, right? And it is based on the same principle as API led, right? So all they are saying is, hey, every bank needs to provide a certain common set of APIs that are similar in naming, convention, input, output, all of that, so that it becomes easier to exchange the data in the right manner, right? And that same paradigm is replicated in the healthcare domain as well, right? So healthcare domain talks about HL7, hospitals, service providers to exchange the data. I would go ahead a step further and say, same has been done in the telecommunications industry as well, right? There are standards in terms of TMF, the telecom management forums. They all are trying to standardize the domains, right? They're all trying to allow you to create similar APIs for same set of functions for that industry, right? So again, all of this happens, they all let you create those wow experiences for your customers. Okay, so now that you understand the concept of API first or API led, let's talk about how do you go about implementing it, right? So this is a product stack that we as WSO2 offer, right? And I would categorize our solutions mainly in 4 categories, right? So you understand APIs are central to your business, right? So your key priority is to develop these APIs, right? So every time you develop this API, there are certain critical functionalities, right? Things like security, protocol, encryption, access management. You want to control all of this. You don't want to write the logic for every API that you publish, right? To solve that problem, we've got API management. So API management is a suite of solutions that allow you to, the industry calls them as API gateways. It's a one-stop solution which allows you to accomplish the life cycle of the API, manage the deployment part of it, testing to the entire life cycle, right? Next level is creating those wow experiences, right? You need to create APIs, integration services that interact with your backend system and allow the user to see the data that he wants to see, right? And that's what the integration is. It's a framework that allows you to exchange that data. Another critical part of the digital infrastructure is identity and access management, right? So you've created these experiences. How can you ensure that the right person gets the right data? You know, how can you ensure you're doing this in a secure manner? More than ever, security is of prime importance in every industry today, right? It's no longer a good to have feature. It is a must have feature for all industries, right? And that's where we allow you to enable identity and access management in an easy manner. With that said, we also have a solution in the internal developer platform space, right? So what is this? Think of it as beyond APIs, right? When you're looking at delivering these experiences, delivering your digital transformation project, You want a platform that allows you to build and deliver and innovate at a faster pace, right? So you don't want to spend time managing this platform, but you want to spend time creating your business value APIs, right? And that's what the Choreo as a platform is. We'll have a look into each of these solutions and the name of these products. Talking about API management, we've got many things in multiple ways, right? So, think of it as what your requirement is, right? So we've got 3 solutions which do the similar stuff, but they all are very purpose oriented, right? So we've got WSO2 API Manager, which is the battle tested product. It's a solution which is deployed with several of my customers, several customers in Indonesia. It's a platform that allows you to manage APIs, right? And I call it as a DIY kind of solution, right? Why I say DIY? Because you can deploy it the way you like, right? You can deploy it on your on-prem servers, you can deploy it on VMs, you can deploy it on containers, you can go on the cloud, whatever, wherever your data resides, it has got capabilities to deploy that, right? And without having the complexities of what to do, where to do, and how to do, right? And that's the API manager as a solution. Then we have another solution which we call as APK, and to define what APK is, it's API platform for Kubernetes, right? So if Kubernetes is your choice of deployment operating system, we've got a solution that works natively in those environments, right? So again, not that I want to talk a lot about Kubernetes, but if it's something that you're using in your company and you want a solution that's native to that platform, APK is the right platform. Last but not the least, we have sort of customers who say that, okay, you know what? I don't want to manage the underlying hardware, underlying infrastructure. I just want to create these APIs and I want to manage them, right? So for those customers, we've got a software as a service platform, which we call as Choreo for API management, right? So all you have to do is don't worry about installation, don't worry about the configuration. You leverage the service that is managed by the experts at WSO2, right? That's the Choreo for API management. A quick glimpse about each of these products. WSO2 API Manager. So API Manager is a full product. Why would you use API Manager, right? So as Saharul gave an example, you need to provide that developer experience, right? And you need to run your API store, right? So it could be for your internal audience, could be for your external audience. You need to monetize your APIs, right? You want to give the external user a chance to understand how has he consuming these APIs, right? You want to track how these APIs are being consumed. You want to monetize your APIs. You want to have subscription plans, right? So all of this is available with our product. This is a product that has been innovated over more than 10 plus years. It has evolved, and it's a open source solution for complete, fast, and used by thousands of organizations. I spoke about API platform for Kubernetes. So we've got a product, again, 100% open source. It's Apache licensed. It's a platform that scales natively in the Kubernetes world. So for some of our customers who have experience in using Kubernetes, understand that for software to work closely with Kubernetes, they need services that can scale up natively within the platform, right? And APK or API platform for Kubernetes is that solution, right? Again, it's leveraging the Envoy proxy. It supports the cloud native compute foundation gateways API specifications. It comes with all the functionalities like the developer portal, back office capabilities, integration with a control plane. All of that is available, and it's available for you to use. If you are using Kubernetes, this is the full-featured API gateway that you want to consider. We spoke about Choreo. Choreo is our software as a service platform, fully managed. It's something that my customers call it as API gateway on autopilot, right? So when you want to launch APIs to the market faster and faster and not worry about how do I maintain the servers, you don't have skills, you don't have teams, you can leverage the software as a service platform, right? This is a platform that allows you to implement, deploy your APIs without worrying about or managing the infrastructure for it, right? Of course, It's a full stack solution like the API manager. It provides insightful analytics. It allows you, the developer portal, to explore the APIs. It's even got a component for internal API store versus external API store, right? It's fully scalable, highly available. It's API management on autopilot. With that said, let's look at, now that we know how you take care of these APIs, let's think about how do you build these APIs, right? And for that solution, we've got three options, right? We've got three of each. So we've got Micro Integrator, which is again a battle-tested product. A lot of my customers in Indonesia leverage this to build new services. But why three products, right? So again, what we've realized is, being in the integration space, microservices space for 17, 18 plus years, what we realize is that different developers have got different preferences, right? Now, there are certain developers who prefer low code approach to developing integration and services, right? They prefer what the industry calls as development through configuration. You know, you want to drag and drop, create the logic, and deploy your application, right? You don't have to write the low level code, right? So that's what some developers prefer, right? And then comes more high-end developers who are used to using the full code approach. They want to have tighter control over the business logic, right? And that's where comes Ballerina, right? Giving you a quick introduction of what Ballerina is. So Ballerina is an open source language, right? It's a language unlike any other language in the market today. It's a language that is created for integrations and web services, right? So I could talk about Ballerina whole day, but think of it as, hey, if you want to integrate multiple backends, create APIs, Ballerina is a language that what we call as batteries included, which means that it's got all the necessary building blocks that you would need to create, right? So for example, right, for my personal project, I was using Node.js to deliver an API, right? Now, as some of you might know, if you are using Node.js, you need to import tons of libraries, right? Libraries to even accept a payload as a JSON, right? And then you convert JSON into a string, deserialize it, process it, update, and then convert it back, right? Now, the advantage that you get with something like Ballerina here is that it's a modern language. You don't have to import these tons of libraries, third-party libraries, which you have no control of, right? All of these capabilities. So one notable difference with Ballerina, and I'll stop there, is JSON is a native data type, right? So you don't have to convert JSON into a string, manipulate it, and convert it back. So you can directly handle JSON payloads in Ballerina, right? Pretty much like how we do it in Micro Integrator, right? But it's just, the difference there is, it's Ballerina is full code with the advantage of diagrammatic representation, and Micro Integrator is low code, right? Yeah, and last but not the least, Choreo again. So Choreo as a platform allows you to run integrations, and here, of course, you can run integrations based on Ballerina and Micro Integrator with Choreo. But for the first time, we are now launching Choreo with any languages, right? So for example, you could choose your language of choice. You could use Java Spring Boot, you could use Node.js, whatever you might have. You can create these integrations and deploy it on Choreo, right? And that's what Choreo is. So quick overview of the use cases that you would do with Micro Integrator. So you've got multiple systems in the backend, ERP, CRM. You want to have a business process created that goes across multiple systems. MI is a solution for it, right? It supports service orchestration, service choreography. It has got capabilities for data integration. You can extract data from your APIs, databases, mash it up, load it into your data warehouse. It can be deployed on VMs, servers, to containers, to cloud, and it's got all the capabilities of allowing you to run a cloud native microservice, right? The only difference here is that it is low code as opposed to full code. Then we've got Ballerina, which is a modern programming language designed specifically for integration, right? So things like network awareness, calling a REST API, calling a backend, concurrency, resiliency, transaction supports, things like inbuilt security, right? Now, again, things like OAuth, they are all standards, right? You don't have to necessarily define this for every API. These are all native constructs within the language. So basically, it reduces the amount of code the developer needs to write, right? That's advantage. And again, like most of our products, Ballerina is open source and community driven. Talking about integration, as I said, yep, Choreo allows you to do that. It's got a lot more than just integration. It comes with its own CI/CD pipeline. It allows you to be cloud independent. So for example, if you choose to have multiple setups, right? Let's say you want to host your own data centers, you want to leverage AWS, you want to leverage Azure, Choreo platform is cloud independent, right? So you could have APIs that can run across the regions, cloud providers, on-prem, off-prem, right? So all of that is supported. Moving into the next phase. Yeah, it's a good point. I missed a slide, right? So again, what to choose what, right? So as you can see, WSO2 Micro Integrator has got a wider application, right? So before I tell you what this chart is, I want to explain the y-axis here is a technology, right? So preference that the developer has, right? You want to use low code approach, full code approach, or better code approach, or you want to use any code approach, right? I call this as an any code, right? So think of it as, hey, do I want to develop an API using configuration approach? Then that's called low code. Better code is I want to have tighter control over the logic. I'm better with the syntaxes and writing statements. That's better code. And then comes any code, right? I could use Java, Node, or whatever language, Python to write my logic. And on the x-axis, we've got the way you want to deploy your services. Right now, in the past decade or so, a pattern as ESB enterprise service bus, a central service bus that acts as a common conduit for exchange of information. If that's what you're deploying, MI fits those requirements really well, right? And again, our friends at Lazada, Shopee, Netflix, Amazon, they all have been promoting microservices, a way through which you can have scalable APIs that can support tens and millions of users at the same time. If you're looking at that kind of a load, then of course you can use MI for it, and you can also use Ballerina for it as well, right? And then if you're looking at hands-off approach where you're just looking at focusing on your experiences, focusing on those APIs, then we've got platform as a service, which is the last component on the x-axis. And Choreo enables you to use all of these languages, right? You can have an option of using low-code approach, drag and drop. You can have full code approach, which is with Ballerina. And of course, you can use your language of choice, right? You can use Java, Node, or any other language. With that said, another critical part of your API strategy is how you control access to the right users. Right now, security is on the top of every CIO's agenda, right? So one of the critical part of security framework is having an identity access management, right? And that is where we've got two offerings here. Again, one is, in my words, DIY, which means that you take it, run it the way you like, right? So could be on your servers, could be on your cloud systems, wherever you like. And then it's Asgardio, right? Asgardio is software as a service. It allows you to manage identities without worrying about where it is being used and managed, right? Of course, we'll dive deeper into identity server, a lot of use case, internal employees, external customer data. We manage it all, right? And quickly summarizing, Asgardio is a unique platform, allows you to create a unified view of customers. It's got a lot of interesting use cases, right? Organizations today have to work with other organizations. That's where our B2B organization management comes in, right? And the most critical part of it is the SIAM capabilities, what industry calls it as consumer identity and access management. So all the applications between business to consumers, government to citizens, all of those are covered, right? Apologies, I'm rushing to keep the time, but we've got customers across a wide spread of industries, right? Rather than talking about each one of these logos, I'm going to pick about 4 logos. Not that I want to talk about all of it. Just want to respect your time, but some of my customers in the region include Standard Chartered Bank. We help them manage APIs and identities for them. other customers in my region, not far away from here, but Ministry of Business Innovation and Employment. We help government manage the innovation in the industry. Some of my other customers include ACU, which is Australia Catholic University, based out of Sydney here, and then a telecom operator, Telstra, who leverages Ballerina to deliver some of their APIs, right? Talking about a customer that is local is PTA Asabri. I apologize if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, but they are a social organization, an organization that supports social insurance policies, for the staff of the Indonesian National Army, Indonesian National Police, and the civil servants of the Ministry of Defense, right? They had a very interesting challenge where they were looking at modernizing their infrastructure, application infrastructure, and they wanted to interact with external third parties, right? And yeah, they chose WSO2 to modernize their infrastructure, and they were able to successfully go live. They now have a successful digital transformed platform. It makes sharing and providing more value to their users, right? And with that, what I'll do is open up for Q&A, right? So yeah, let's stop sharing to see if there are any Q&As. Yeah, I can see there are a few questions, and I can see Sarul has answered. Thank you, Sarul, for answering some of the questions. Yeah, let's take the first question there, right? Is there a possibility of delayed response time when consumer accesses an API through WSO2 compared to accessing the original backend? Very interesting question, right? So thank you, Lukeman. So Lukeman wants to understand, is there a way through which you can introduce delay in the response of the API, right? Now, depending upon what's the main objective, right? So I haven't heard of a real scenario where you want to delay the response, but of course, you typically have limited resources in the backend, right? And what you want to do is that your backend can support, let's say, for example, certain amount of load, right? So let's say you can support 10 requests per second, right? And what if your clients, or let's say if you're under a DDoS attack, okay, and then the request for the APIs goes beyond 10, right? It goes, let's say, 20 transactions per second, right? And of course, you don't want to relay all of the load to the backend. But what you want to do is you want to allow 10 records or 10 transactions to go through, but sort of delay or respond like too many calls, try again later as a response for the APIs that exceed, right? So of course, that concept in the API world is called API throttling, and that is something that we support, right? So WSO2 as an API gateway allows you to protect your backend, right? So you can protect your backend and create a sort of a firewall in between that ensures that not all APIs hit the backend. Okay, so I hope, Lukeman, that answers your question. There is another question which says, what are the key advantages for considering running WSO2 products in Kubernetes environment, right? So I'm sure a lot of us know about it, right? So let's talk about it. So Kubernetes is sort of the new age enterprise operating system. Now, why do I say that, right? So Kubernetes comes with, so all of these cloud providers, right? They've spoiled our habits, right? We want API load to scale up, when there is a need. So hey, there's a sale being launched, an online sale, and suddenly everyone in the country wants to buy a certain product, right? There's an Eid coming up in a few weeks' time, right? I want to buy presents for my family, right? So there is a time of the year when the number of transactions, the load on the system shoots up, right? So, and that's where you want to consider something like Kubernetes, where you have requirements where you want to scale up massively, right? So you want an API that in times of festivals scales up to 100 nodes and supports all the requirements that you have. And then, of course, comes the last day of the month where you don't have money left in your account. And yeah, you say, okay, I want to buy this T-shirt, but I simply don't have money. I need to wait for my salary, right? So those are the times when nobody buys, right? Typically end of the month, right? And that's when you want to shrink your infrastructure to bare minimum nodes, right? When there is no request happening. So that's the value that Kubernetes provides, right? Along with high availability, scalability, reliability, all of that is built into Kubernetes as a platform. I believe what VM did to deployment infrastructure 20 years ago, Kubernetes is doing that to enterprise applications today, right? Now when you have invested into Kubernetes for your backend, you need something like APK that helps you scale up and leverage those benefits of Kubernetes. Okay, the API gateway platform, which I call as APK, is a platform that has been natively created to work in Kubernetes. Unlike other platforms in the market where you can containerize it and run it on Kubernetes, which is more like a shoe fit into the Kubernetes world, we've got a product that has been created natively for Kubernetes, right? So it has got specs from the authority, the Cloud Native Compute Foundation. We honor all of those specs. We provide you to deploy API, manage lifecycle of the API, all of that using native Kubernetes commands, right? So if your team knows what Kubernetes is, they can manage Kubernetes. They don't need to learn a new line, a new command line, right? They can leverage Kubernetes commands to manage API gateway. That's the biggest advantage that you have with API management, right? So I guess we're running out of time, and I will take one last question, right? So the last question that on my list is, I've experienced about blocked invoke API since the quota is exceeded, but sometimes it's still invocable, but not many. Is it normal situation? Okay, so Emma, I think you're trying to understand is that what happens if you if a developer has subscribed to a quota and if the quota expires, right? Now, of course, this is something that you can configure on the gateway. So if you're using WSO2 API Manager, you have an option to define the action, right? So for example, if I'm a developer and I've got, let's say, 10 calls an hour plan that I've subscribed to, and if I end up calling the API 11 times, I can have a behavior that is configured where the 11th API call gets rejected, right? It doesn't go to the backend, right? It's all about how you want to configure it, right? The second configuration that we have is where you allow the developer to go beyond what the quota is and notify him saying that, hey, Puneet, you've exceeded your quota. If you want to continue using the API, you have to upgrade to the next level, right? So you've got options where you can define how this action should be initiated. You can block the user and say that, hey, we've throttled your request. You've done your 10 requests per hour. Wait for the end of the hour and try again. That's a default response that we can give. Or you can say that, okay, I'll allow you to consume these APIs, but you need to upgrade to the next tier, subscribe to the next tier. Okay. So yeah, I hope it was useful. The session was very useful. You found some of the examples, some of the paradigms explained by Saharul and myself. Very useful. Yeah, if you are keen to hear from us, please feel free to reach out to me or any of my team members. You can leave me questions on the website. Reach out to me. I missed a slide with my contact details, but my name is Puneet Makwana, PUNEET @wso2.com. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about API deployment, API strategy. I'll be glad to help you with that. Thank you, everyone. I wish you a very pleasant day ahead. And yeah, thank you.